Hey, good morning Eastown Online. My name is Jeremy and we're so excited that you stopped by today. We got a lot of great things planned, but first we'd like to connect with you. So grab your phone and text Eastown to 94000. Coming up, our band is going to be playing one of my favorite songs by the Ex-Ambassadors called Belong. So grab your coffee, text your friend to join you online. It's gonna be a great day.
Hey everybody, welcome to Eastown Online. My name's April, if I haven't met you, and we're so happy that you're here with us this morning. This guy over here is, what's your name?
My name's Kevin. Did you forget?
This is Kevin. No, I just wanted them to hear it from you. This is Kevin.
Yo.
Kevin, good
Kevin
morning.
Morris. Thank you, good morning.
Oh man, band and Claire and Angelica, thank you guys for that song. That song is called Belong by Ex-Ambassadors. You guys can check it out on the Eastown Spotify playlist, but I love that idea of finding a place of belonging. We're going to be talking a lot about that this morning in our second week of the This is Eastown series. We're talking about relationships. So I thought it might be fun, Kevin, if we kind of talked about some relationship goals that we have in our lives from like movies and TV shows that we've seen. Can can you think of any relationships that you see that and you're like, if I could just follow that one, I'd be pretty good?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
as soon as you mentioned that, right off the top of my head, the first
Okay.
one that I think of, I'm a big fan of The Office.
Okay.
Right. And there's one couple in that show. I think most people know who I'm going to mention.
Pam and Jim, right?
No, I'm talking about Michael and Jan.
Michael, Scott, and Jan?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Kevin-
I'm not done with the show yet. I'm only on season 3, but so far, I mean, that relationship is just picture perfect, if you ask me.
I can't think of one thing that is picture perfect about that relationship, and I am begging you to please finish season 4 before you put your stamp of approval on Michael and Jan.
Okay,
Please, Kevin.
well, I'll get back
Please.
to you once I finish season 4.
I'm
but
very
what
worried about you. Very worried.
Regardless of me, what about you? Do you have any relationships that you look up to?
Yes, I have a much better relationship. So this friendship that I was watching in this movie, I'm watching with my kids the other day. I'm like, if I could just be part of Moana and Maui's friendship in the movie Moana, then I'd be good. They just like work together. They have such a great dynamic. They just like figure it out together. I love it.
Well, but didn't Maui try and like throw her off the boat for the first like 10 minutes they knew each other? Wasn't that a thing?
Yes, but that's why they're the perfect example of a good friendship, because they like have a really hard time at the beginning. They're like working through stuff, like, you know, when like one person tries to kill the other person, like normal relationship stuff.
Yeah, normal issues.
And
yeah.
then they like save an island together. So it ends up being like they figured it out. So I love that relationship.
I guess, I understand that. But
Okay.
regardless of whatever fictional relationships we aspire to, everybody knows that one of Easttown's main values is relationships. And we
Yes.
love relationships. We want to be in relationship with you. And that is why we're doing something real quick on September 13th called Eastown Pop-Up. We're going to be taking the truck around and meeting you guys at certain locations. And we're going to have more information for that upcoming on our social media, so stay tuned.
Yes, I can't wait for that. I'm going to be driving that truck. No, I would.
Well, maybe not you.
I won't be
driving,
allowed
but
to. I won't be allowed to drive that truck.
Yeah.
Another opportunity for us to connect. We are going to be doing an in-person vision night, a socially distanced backyard vision night in person, and we're also going to offer a Zoom option for that if you're not comfortable coming in person. This will be a time for us to be together, to talk about how Eastown is going right now, the future at Eastown, for us to just be together and talk about vision for Eastown. We haven't been together in such a long time, and we're really excited for this opportunity to be together with you in person or in Zoom. There's going to be a link below right now that you can click on to get more information on these vision nights. We really hope to see you there at one of these options.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that, as well as Eastown Pop-Up, and we will have more information on that on our social media. We have every social media you can think of: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, we have it.
Yes.
So take a moment, follow us on those. The links will be down below. But like April mentioned, we are in our second week of our This is Eastown series. Clint and Michael have a great message for you guys, so let's get into it, and have a great Sunday.
See ya.
Good morning and welcome to Easttown Online. I just want to pause right now because what is happening currently here in the Bay Area with forest fires and different things like that, just with COVID, and there's so many different variables that are happening that are causing a lot of stress in people's lives. In fact, I was just talking to one of my friends this morning who's in danger of losing their home. And so we just want to acknowledge that. We know that people are going through so many different situations that are really tough. So we just want to start the message with prayer. So pray with me. Lord, we just come to you on behalf of people that are going through things right now that just seem out of their control. God, we just pray that you intervene. Lord, we just pray for just the men and women that are fighting these fires. We pray for the families. We pray for the individuals that are in danger of losing their homes. Lord, we pray for people that they will remain safe and that you will just bring peace and confidence and courage in this time. In your name, amen. I also want to say I'm so thankful for the generosity here at Eastown, because of people that are going through things like this, we're able to respond. And if you know of individuals, right, if you know family members, friends, or even if you don't really know them, if you have the means to help right now, we just ask that you do that. And if you don't know, like, it's one of the things that we do here so well at Eastown is we're able to distribute some of that generosity that you're able to give to us. And so we're just thankful for that, thankful for your spirit when it comes to those things. So if you haven't automated your giving here, know that when you do that, we're able to respond in crises like this. Also, maybe it's you step out in faith today and you begin that giving, that generosity journey just by simply texting GIVE, GYVE, to 313131.
Like Clint said, we're so glad you're joining us this morning at Eastown. And we're in the second week of this 5-week series called This is Eastown. And we're really talking about this idea of what makes us us. And last week we talked about the analogy of your core. Like, your core really has so much to do with everything you do throughout your day. And it's the same with us as Eastown. What is at the core of us? What are our values? Your core, did you know this, not only improves your posture, your balance, your coordination. What are you doing? But it also improves your brain power. You could argue that really working on your core is one of the most important things that you could do physically. And so the same for us, as Clint is talking about, this is such a season of discouragement, of crisis after crisis that we're going through, of really a lot of division within our country. This is a time that we need to focus on what is the most important, what makes us us at Eastown. And so we are talking about what is at the foundation, what are our values. Last week we talked about the first one, which was love no matter what. And this week we're talking about relationships that strengthen. And why is it that we were created for a relationship? And what does that have to do with how we move forward in this situation?
Yeah, and we don't know where you are on your spiritual journey, your spiritual path, wherever that may be, is we want you to just listen in today. For those of you who are following Jesus, you've made that decision to follow Jesus, hopefully this is an encouragement to you. For those of you who are not ready to do that, maybe today is where you just kind of listen in and say, that way sounds a little bit better than the way I've been doing it. Because here's the thing, we believe that God has given everyone a path to walk in, right? And to walk on. And a lot of times we don't discover that purpose and that impact that he's provided for us until we start that relationship with him, right? And so we got a little illustration right here. And we have this tape. And I don't know if you've ever been like, you've done this orienteering course or challenge. We used to do this with some students. We would lead in student ministry. We'd give them a compass, we'd give them a starting point, and we'd give them an end point.
That was kind of a disaster.
It was a disaster. And what you do is you kind of give these coordinates, right? At the starting point, you say, hey, here's where you're going. We're going to give you a compass and we're going to give you an end point. And so you've got to follow really closely. You got to stay on track. You can't veer off the path or you will miss the destination, right? And so we would start here. But here's what happens sometimes. If we are just off 1 degree, and this happened to me when I actually did the orienteering, I would just be off of 1 degree. And let's just say the space, the travel, we'll just say 1 mile. Did you know from point A to point B, if you're off 1 degree, you're actually off the, what do we call that? The end point by 92 feet. Right? Just 1 degree. Now you're like, maybe that's not that big a deal. Like 92 feet, who cares? It's like, well, think about if you're landing an airplane, right? And you have to be right on track, right? And you miss the runway, the results are devastating, right? But this is what happens to us. We believe that God gives us a path. We believe that God created us to walk in the footsteps that he set before us. But we know as humans, right? We know that the world that we live in, it is hard to stay on track. And God knows that. He knows that. He knows we're going to mess up. He knows that we're going to need grace, and that's why grace comes in, right? But we also know that he's provided things along this path, and we believe those things are relationships, and we believe that this is the purpose, one of the purposes of the church, is to help provide those relationships almost as bumpers, right? Is that when we get off track a little bit, it kind of pushes us back. It kind of reminds us who we were created to be.
And we're going to talk about a few of those things things that kind of keep us on track today and why those relationships are so important for that. But we're going to look at this verse in the Bible, this group of verses first in the book of Acts. And we look at these scriptures a lot when we talk about what is the importance of relationship, of community. We really believe this is what the church is here for, to just be a place where these relationships can flourish and they can, like Clint said, help us move from point A to
really
point
good.
B. Yes,
Really good.
that was a great
Thank you. You're
illustration.
welcome.
But listen to these verses in
Hey,
Acts
can I say something
2.
real quick?
You can.
So Acts, think about this, is like Jesus is now gone, right, from the planet Earth. He promises them, like, hey, I'm going to leave something behind, like a spirit to help you, to guide you, a conscience to guide you. So this is the first group of people, this is their actions trying to figure out how to live along this path.
Yeah, and this is the description of how they're living in relationship. It says this: they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread
that
and
part.
to prayer. Which part?
The breaking of bread.
It's because you're on a juice cleanse right now. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. And I think one of the most important parts of this verse is at the beginning when it says the first church, describing the first church, was devoted. And then it makes this list of actions. They were committed to these relationships and to living in relationship together, whether they were praying together or they were breaking bread together. You like that one? They were meeting together, listening to teaching together. They were committed to these relationships. And we also see that the actions that we are listed here are not just to strengthen their own faith, which I think a lot of times is how we end up even approaching church, is like, how is this going to strengthen me? But it was not just about how it's going to strengthen their own faith, but how they would strengthen one another. They would strengthen each other in both spiritual ways, but very practical ways too. Like as we talk about the ways that we're able to respond because of your generosity, this is the church and our relationship together at work to bless people in very tangible ways. And so we're going to look at, just through that lens of, this is what happens when we're devoted and committed to each other. Why are relationships so powerful? We're going to look at the idea that relationships alert us to where we're drifting, maybe where we're getting off course. Relationships remind us of who we are and who God created us to be. And then relationships strengthen us along our journey.
So the first thing you talked about was alert, right? It's like, as long as we're on this journey, part of the reason that God has placed community in our lives, and we see this even in our career world, we see this other places as well, is like there's different people along this journey that alert us. That's the journey, right? They alert us. We all drift, and a lot of times we drift without even knowing it, and we need somebody to alert us that we are actually drifting, to let us know that we are in danger. And during this pandemic, right, we are having our most vulnerable places exposed. Now think about this. Crisis is the great revealer. Crisis, right? When we go through these crises, it reveals what's on the inside. The great revealer, what's on the inside. And the enemy is doing all he can to exploit those vulnerable places. We talked a little bit about this last week. If you missed this last week, make sure you go back and you watch this either on our website, easttown.church, or you listen to one of our podcasts. The enemy is doing all he can to destroy, right, what we're trying to do. In fact, 1 Peter says this. In the book of Peter, Peter says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour, right? One of our greatest vulnerabilities is isolation. Think about that. We isolate ourselves so quickly. Right now, a lot of us are isolated. You might see people, you might see family, but you have grown into a state of isolation. And when things are hard to handle, we battle greater temptation to withdraw. And I think there's different faces to isolation, right? The first one is, I can figure this out. I can figure this struggle out on my own. I don't need others. Maybe a second face would be this. You can identify with this. I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to come across as helpless or needy. Maybe the third one is this. I'm afraid to let others know what is really happening inside. The mess that I feel like, the mess that is going on inside. What will people think of me? So we do this, we go at it alone. One of the things we've been doing in this season as a family, we've been trying to walk almost every single day. And we go out with our family, and Michael and I we're like, hey kids, go find that path. And we try to run back home, change the locks on the doors. It's fine, it's normal. But anyways, we walk as a family, and there's this one time on the walk where we go on this path, and there's kind of this open field, and there's all of these ground squirrels that are there. And so we're passing through this just the other day, and all of a sudden, these ground squirrels start going crazy. Like they're whistling and they're growling.
They don't growl.
Well, they're making noises and they're just doing all these things.
Chirping. I
they're
thought
chirping.
It was birds
Chirping's
at
a better word.
Yes, chirping.
Right? They're chirping. And like it was crazy. Then all of a sudden, I look over and there is this hawk that is swooping down. And it's like about 30 feet off the ground. What were they doing? They were alerting their friends, like, danger is coming. Something is prowling and it's out to get us. There was one ground squirrel, I don't think he could hear. They didn't care about Bob. We named him Bob. He got picked up and got taken off. But anyways, right? They were alerting each other. This is what relationships that strengthen do. They alert. Our mandate in this season to socially distance has introduced us to an even greater tendency for people to live in isolation. Doctors and specialists, listen to what they're saying. We will not even know the full ramifications of this season when it comes to mental health for a number of years to come. This isolation in the midst of the fear and division that is happening around us is causing great depression, anxiety, suicide rates are higher than ever. And this is what one of our friends said the other day. If only it would have been called physical distancing instead of social distancing. The act of social distancing ourselves will have great ramifications. So here's the truth. Crisis is the great revealer, but there's another part. But relationships can be a great healer.
Yeah. The second thing that we're going to talk about, why our relationships are so beneficial, is that our relationships really remind us. They alert us, and then they remind us of who we were created to be. And I would say this, like for all of us, we easily forget. And we forget where we're going. We forget what matters most in the midst of all the changes that are happening and the craziness in our world. It's so easy, like we talked about, to get off course. We drift. And when we drift, we compromise what's really the most important. We begin to make excuses. We begin to go to these avenues of escape that just allow us to kind of get away from what reality is. And we need others to remind us who God created us to be. And here's the challenge of this that we face. Just like Clint talked about, isolation is a big challenge. The other thing that's a big challenge for us in our Western culture is individualism. And I would say this, individualism, let me say this first, is that there is a part of it that was created by God. This piece of individualism that is a good thing from God is all of the scriptures that tell us God knew us before we were born. He knit us together in our mother's womb. The days of our lives are numbered, and He has a plan and purpose for every single one of us. We say that all the time, is that God has this incredible story for your life. If you're at any point wherever you are, God is still here saying, this is the story that I have for you. This is the life to the full that I've intended for you, and we need people to remind us. But there's also this way that individualism has been distorted. And it's this principle that we hold in our culture so dear to, of being independent and being self-reliant. There are things early on in my life where I became so sure that independence was the way I needed to live and that I needed to take care of myself. I had our oldest daughter when I was 18, and I was a single mom until Clint and I got married when she was 7. And I determined, even though I had a relationship with Jesus, that I needed to be independent. I needed to figure this out on my own. I needed to do what was important for Savannah and I. And that has been really hard, even for me to fight and break and to understand how much I need other people. And so I think there's something in all of us that we don't want to need others. Our greatest concern is ourselves. We care more about being right or being first or our own happiness. And even though I say like this individualism is so prevalent in our culture today, we see it throughout Scripture. And we actually see it in this small group of young men that were closest to Jesus, his disciples. And there were 12 of them that lived in relationship with him, that saw the miracles that he did, that listened. They had a front row seat to every teaching moment. They had one-on-one time with him. They spent all of this time with him. And this would still creep in. We see things where the apostles are like, or the disciples are pulling Jesus aside and they're saying, hey, can I be at your right hand? Like when we go to heaven, when this is all over, can I be at your right hand and can I be at your left hand? Can I be the ones closest to you? Don't you think like I'm the one that kind of rises up out of everybody else and I should have the place of honor? Or the disciple comes to Jesus who says, who is the greatest? Or they come to him and say, who is the greatest among us? Like, don't you see one of us that's rising to the top? And haven't you seen how hard that I've been trying to do the things you say I should do and how hard I've been working? And we do this here. It's like even in the church right now, I am seeing where we are trying to prove that we're right. And we're standing almost in this posture of, aren't I a better Christian with what I believe and what I think is right? Like, don't I kind of rise up over those people over there? And this individualism creeps in so quickly and it distorts what God created for good. It distorts the power of the relationship. And so, as we see this, this is not the way God intended. God created us for this relationship. And there's a beautiful picture of this idea of reminding. In 2 Timothy, Paul and Timothy were traveling together. They were close, and Paul was kind of the mentor to Timothy. And he says this to Timothy, for this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands. He means you've been given these gifts by God. I remind you, use those. Fan those into flames. He says, for the Spirit of God does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. So do not be ashamed of the testimony about our Lord. I can't tell you along my path the number of times that I needed people when I was discouraged, when I felt like maybe God wasn't present, when I was angry at the way things were in my life, that I needed people along the way to remind me. When I felt like I only needed to worry about my own interests, I needed people. And I can say names all across this line of people that said, but remember, Michael, this is what you were created for. Remember, Michael, this is what God has for you and for your family. And I would say, especially now, we need that. We need to be that for others, and we need to allow others to do that in our own lives.
That's great. The last one is strengthen, right? This is kind of our value, like how we say it is like
they all kind of lead to this.
Relationships that strengthen. Think about this. We are stronger together. We are better together. We like to say that, but do we really like to live that? Do we like it when somebody comes alongside of us and says, hey, listen, like, there's some things that really need to change in your life, because we are only better if we allow someone else that is pointing us to Jesus to speak truth into our life. And listen to Proverbs. It says this, it takes a grinding wheel to sharpen a blade. And so one person sharpens the character of another, right? It takes all of us. It's like some of the hardest conversations that Michael and I have, some of my closest friends that have with me, they're really hard to hear, but I know it's making me better. And these friendships are really important. These friendships are kind of the phrase that we always say is like, they love Jesus more than they love you. So they're going to be able to speak the truth that you need to hear, right? When we stand together, we are stronger. When we grieve with somebody, when we carry each other's burdens in tangible ways, when we see someone's pain and advocate on their behalf, it means that we lay our agenda down. It means that when we're talking to our friends of color and we hear their stories and when we hear their pain, it's like, man, I want to help you carry that. I want to advocate on your behalf. These are the relationships that strengthen. It's not just a friendship. They value you. They value your soul. They value your health more than they value that friendship or that relationship. These are the relationships that strengthen. So sometimes getting stronger hurts in the process, but this is a great value of relationships. When I am selfish, these relationships remind me that it's not just about me. When I am focused on being right, these relationships remind me that I need to listen to the experiences of others. When I am on autopilot, it reminds me and it jolts me and it reminds me to walk the path that only God created for me, not the path of someone else. I want to show you what this looks like with a couple of my good friends here at Eastown. One was a part of Eastown, now he's moved away. His name is Jeremy and Quinn. Watch their story.
Community to me is the people in your life that you know, that you can trust, that you can lean on, the people you can go to when you need help, the people that support you and care about you and listen to you and honestly care about like what you're saying. And the people that you can do things with are the people that have an impact on you, but you also have an impact on them. My name is Jeremy Eaton, and I'm a quality engineer for Tesla. So when my wife and I first came out here in 2015, we bounced around from church to church. We probably tried out 10 different churches. And then we found out Eastown was coming here. My wife and I had dinner with Clint and Michael, and they kind of cast their vision, said what they're wanting to do, and their kind of their vision for Eastown, which is very similar to the church that we attended back in Michigan. And knew right away that this was something different than what we've experienced so far in the Bay Area, and it felt like this is a church that this area really needed. Before Eastown, I was not involved in church very much at all. I was the person that would be the last one in. I would sit in the very back and be the first one back out. Eastown, being a startup church, helped me jump in immediately because I knew there was something I could contribute. You know, I wasn't sure how I could help, but I knew there would be a way that I could help. Kind of handed that over to God, and so like, if you need me, use me, and I'll be available. I signed up immediately. That sounds great. I like to help any way I can. So I first met Quinn working at Tesla. We were in different groups within Tesla, but we worked in the same department overall.
Jeremy and I met at the first workstation I was assigned to. Poked his head in, and he just kind of silently watched for 5 to 10 minutes and then disappeared. I did not know his name by the end of that 10 minutes.
I noticed something that was different about Quinn. He has a lot of passion, a lot of drive, and so I asked him to join my team.
About a year ago, a little bit before the new year, I started reporting to Jeremy directly. So this last year, I have been heavily involved with Jeremy. I sit directly in front of him.
What I noticed about Quinn was he seemed very stressed a lot, didn't know how to express himself.
So Jeremy's got even more stress than I do as an engineer. He had to contend with all of the same people that I did on a daily basis. He didn't complain. That started sticking out to me after not too long because these people were driving me up the walls.
With Eastown being a new startup, a lot of times, you know, Clint and Michael will be like, you know, if you love being here, if you love this, then share it with people, you know, outside of Eastown, like carry this in like your daily life. That's what I did, like go to work and, you know, be with, you know, my coworkers and kind of invite them along to experience the same thing. It was Christmas time last year, and of course Christmas and Easter are the easiest times to invite people to church. So I invited Quinn.
He was telling me that Eastown is what enables him to deal with all of the things that I find so frustrating throughout the week. My initial reaction was, this is not for me. I remember I told him, I'm going to be a little bit busy with family activities during the Christmas break.
But then next week after that, I invited him again.
I didn't respond to that one.
And so I asked the next weekend. But this time, I asked him to help set up.
I felt like I was kind of surprised with that one, but either way, I ended up coming. My first time at Eastown started at 7 a.m. for a service setup. My first setup experience at Eastown didn't matter that everybody was still half asleep. Everybody was happy to be there. And when I walked through the doors, nobody had ever met me before, but everybody greeted me with enthusiasm.
I knew that it seemed like Quinn was getting very frustrated and he needed something different. And I knew that the setup team was something different. It was something that he could look forward to and actually enjoy working with other people and have that community piece.
The first service, there was something about the way Clint balanced the seriousness of his message, the weightiness of his message with the humor, and it just made sense. Something about it clicked. I left the first service thinking that, you know what, I could really get into all this if just whenever he mentions Jesus or God, in my brain, I'm just gonna replace it with the power of positivity. From that mindset, I kept coming back, but I was doing less and less of replacing Jesus and God with the power of positivity. And I was starting to lean a little bit more into the actual words of Clint's services. Half a year later, Clint and Michael are talking about all different kinds of things about Eastown. Filled out one of their flyers where it says, "Do you have any interest in getting baptized?" I didn't know if I was there yet. I didn't know if I was anything like what Jeremy was, or if I was like any of the other leads at Setup. I didn't know if it was kind of like the superficial thing where it's just, I saw people doing something that I want to do, so why not give it a go? If I was gonna get baptized, it needed to have a little bit more weight than that. On that little flyer at the open table, I wrote down next to the baptism question, "We should talk about this." Clint really helped me see that this whole idea of me going for baptism is really not that crazy at all. Even if I don't know everything quite yet, even if I don't understand everything quite yet, I'm ready to buy in. I'm ready to be a part of this. On July 14th, I was baptized. It was absolutely the start of a new chapter, a brand new phase, start of a revitalized me.
So I remember Quinn's baptism, just thinking back to where he was, prior to Eastown, but then seeing how far he's come in the past, several months, and the impact that people at Eastown have made on him. Just amazing to see the work that God has done in Quinn through the community at Eastown.
It's been just a positive transformation since day one back in January. I think I'm doing much better with everybody at work. I think I'm doing better with friends, with family. I'm aware that things need to be improved upon, and I improve upon them without hating on myself.
So my wife and I have spent the past 4 years in the Bay Area, but we are getting ready to move back to Indiana from where we both grew up. All of our family is back there, and my wife and I are looking to start a family soon. So we want to be back there and raise our kid close to our parents and our grandparents. There are a few people that have stepped up to take on different pieces of the role that I had here, and Quinn is doing one of those. He would be leading one of the setup teams. Quinn stepping up into a leadership role really means a lot to me. I was afraid that, once I'm gone, that he'll lose that community with me, and that he won't have the other connections within Eastown that he has with me, and he would stop coming and he'd just lose interest. But I would say in the past month or two, I've seen the steps he's taken. I've seen the people that have come around him and the community that he has grown here. I know it's not just about me anymore. There's a lot of other people that he is now connected with and can talk to.
This community exists because Jesus made a sacrifice that was so powerful, so intentional, that its effects reverberate to this day. The community here explained to me, God's got your back. There are answers available. You don't have to do everything on your own. You don't have to put all that pressure, all that weight on yourself. I never would have realized that if it weren't for Eastown. Never would have realized that if I hadn't started a conversation with God.
When I watch that story of Jeremy and Quinn, and I've seen it a number of times, I'm reminded how important relationships are. And not just for our own benefit and what they add to our lives, but they really are what puts us on the track that God intended and allows us to have the greatest impact we can on the community, on the world around us, and on other people. God's view for our lives, God's view for our relationships is so expanded from what we think it is, and we can get to be so tunnel vision in our own life that we forget. And so maybe today you need to ask yourself one of these two questions, maybe both. Where do I need to step back into relationship with someone that needs strengthening right now? Where have I just kind of gotten focused on my own life? And I know relationship looks different in social distancing, but where do I need to step back in? And the second question is, where do I need to allow someone in who maybe has been trying to alert or remind me of who I'm created to be? Maybe there is someone that has been pursuing and you haven't been allowing that person in. But when we come together in these relationships that God intended the church for, there is no telling what can happen in the lives of other people and how we can be a light in the dark places of our world. And just like you see in Quinn's story, I think sometimes we're surprised by the way God ends up connecting with us. And maybe in this season, God is able to speak to you and get your attention a little bit more. And maybe you've made a decision to really follow him and seek after the life that he has for you that is far different than the one we create on our own. And we would love, if you've made that decision, for you to be a part of baptism. And we know we've had to get creative and figure out how we're going to do it, but we are offering baptism in a swimming pool on September 13th, and it will just be the people getting baptized and a few friends and family socially distanced, and then we will share that with the Eastown community the following Sunday. But if that is you, we would love for you to sign up or reach out to us if you have more questions on that. I want to just tell you a couple of opportunities coming up for you to engage in community at Eastown. Like I said, we've had to reinvent a lot of things, but we will be launching dinner parties again in mid-September, and those are all over the East Bay, and some of them may be in person if they can do it safely outside, and some will still be on Zoom. So we would love for you to connect with that. The other thing that many people are starting right now is in-person watch parties, where you just gather a family or two and watch the service together on a Sunday morning or another time. Have breakfast together, whatever it is, do it outside, put it up on the TV with YouTube, but just gather a few people and begin connecting in smaller, safe ways again, because we need to be with each other and to encourage each other. And we have something brand new that you can just text discuss to 94000, and we will send you 2 to 3 questions that you can discuss in those settings together. So we would love for you to connect in community in one of those ways.
That's great. And I would just echo all of that stuff that you just said. Make this a priority. Make it a priority. And I know that there's so many different ways that we can kind of get out of this and be like, well, I'm too busy, or my kids, or my job, or all of the, it's like, no, we have made so many different ways that you can connect and engage. It has to be you that makes the decision to say, I'm going to do this, because we all are busy, right? We are all running in a million different directions. We are so busy. We are too busy to miss doing this. So today, as you listen to this song, as you be in this moment, this song that you're getting ready to hear is connected to John chapter 8. And it was written based on relationships and how connected we are with God, and how much we were designed to be in community and relationship, because it always reminds us of a couple of different things: who we are and how much we are loved. Listen to this.
But he brought me his love for me, his love for me. The sun sets free, oh, it's free and deep. I'm a child of God, yes I am. And last has ransomed, his grace
I love that song, Who You Say I Am. Nobody else can tell you, right, who you are. Now, we believe, like when we go back to here, is if those people are in tune with God, they're going to constantly remind you of who you are and who God says that you are. And so maybe dwell on that this week. We are so thankful that you joined us. Remember, share this. For those of you, I don't know if you even knew this, but we offer this on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel. You can watch it on Facebook. You can now watch it on Instagram. And you can watch it on church online. You just go to Eastown.church, and maybe that's how you're watching with us today. So thankful that you joined us. And now,
Don't forget to sign up for Vision Night. We would love to
Vision
have you a
Night.
part of that, to celebrate with us and look to the future. Now it's time for Eastown Kids. You're
Eastown
going to have a great
Kids.
morning. Let them make the music. Have a great week.
Hey guys, welcome to Eastown Kids. We're so glad you tuned in with us again. Henry, what's up, man?
What's up?
Glad you're with us again.
Yeah.
Super awesome. Hey guys, as you can see, we have broken out of my garage.
Finally.
And we are outside, and it is pretty toasty out here.
Yeah, this is why I want to be in your garage.
Okay, yeah,
'cause
but it's still
pretty hot.
Still pretty awesome. We're glad you guys have tuned in with us. Henry, what have we been talking about this month?
Creativity.
Creativity is right. Why don't you tell our friends at home what creativity is?
Creativity is imagining what you could do because you are made in God's image.
Well done, my friend. Well done. Hopefully you guys at home have been remembering that too. Right? God created us all so uniquely, so awesomely. I love it so much how each one of you guys are different. We can really, really celebrate that. One thing we're looking at today is that God created us to actually work together. And I've got some, we actually have some pictures of some animals. Now, I love animals, right? A lot of people confuse me with one. But anyway, so check out this animal, right? This is, we got a zebra, and then what's that behind by the zebra there?
Is that a ostrich?
It is, and you might not think these two animals hang out together all that often, but one animal has a really bad sense of smell, and one animal, the ostrich, actually has really, really bad eyesight. And so what's nice is these two actually work together to kind of keep each other safe, keep
That's
each other
really
protected.
cool.
Right? God created it that way so they could work together.
That's cool.
We got another one here. This is actually my favorite animal. This is a crocodile.
A crocodile?
A crocodile,
Is
right?
that
And what's in its mouth? Looks like a snack, but it's not.
a
Plover. A plover. I know that was kind of a tough one. This plover actually cleans out the teeth, which kind of sounds a little bit gross, of this crocodile, but they work together, right? To, and that's kind of a cool way that animals work together. And we're going to look at today how even we, as humans, can work together too. All right? So we have got an awesome story for you today from the life of Jesus. Now, in Eastown Kids, we have talked a lot about Jesus because Jesus lived life better than anyone else. And he's actually a perfect model of someone who to kind of live our lives just like. Now, let me kind of back up. Remember, Jesus lived in a different part of the world with a different people group than us and a long, long time ago. But this story is so, so good. Now, Jesus is going around and he's speaking and he's performing miracles. And people wanted to see it and they wanted to hear him. And so there was this one guy and he was so desperate to come and listen to Jesus and watch him perform miracles. And so he really, really wanted to get there, but there was a problem. And this problem is that this guy actually could not walk, right? How sad, right? He actually was born with an inability to walk. And so he's like, how am I even gonna get there? But this guy had really, really good friends, even superhero friends, you might say. Okay. Sorry about Colonel Ketchup right there. Now these friends actually came and they got this friend of theirs. This is before there were even cars or anything like that. And they got him and they took him to where Jesus was speaking and they dropped him off at the place where Jesus was gonna speak. Thank you, superhero friends. Sorry about those guys. Now this was so awesome, right? They took him all the way, like so thankful for his friends, but there was another problem. Now, when they got there, the place was so full. There were so many people in this house trying to hear what Jesus was saying, trying to watch him perform miracles, that this guy could not get inside because it was so pack. Now that's a huge problem. But if you can guess, he's got some pretty good friends, and so our superheroes are back again. Colonel Ketchup, you are literally gonna hurt yourself. Okay. Now these 4 friends, it's crazy, it's so cool. They actually lift up their friend and they take him to the top of the roof of the house. And they dig out a hole in the roof of the house. I mean, sorry homeowner, right? And they lower their friend who cannot walk right down into the house, right in front of Jesus. Nice job, superhero friends. You guys are good to fly on out of here. What is your I don't know what his superpower really is. Okay. Anyway, so they lower him right down in front of Jesus. And Jesus is so impressed by this man's faith and that his friends that he had surrounded himself with, that he forgives his sins and he actually performs a miracle and heals that man right there, and that man is able to walk. Now, how awesome is that story? How cool is that? Guy's life was changed, not just because of his faith, but because he had surrounded himself with the right people, right? God created us to work together. How cool is that? I feel like Henry, I say your name, it's like you were summoned. That's really cool. Thanks for coming back. I have no idea where you went. Okay, anyway, so hey, Henry, like I was just saying, God created us to work together. And I was thinking, What are some ways that like even in your life today, how God created you to work together with others?
Oh yeah. Well, I think it's easier, like we were saying today, to do it with friends and not alone. So I'd say like maybe like when we're out on the playground and we see like bullying happening to a person that's maybe different or is getting mistreated because of the color of their skin, it's easy to step in and help them.
That's good, right? Yeah, sometimes it's easier to stand up and do the right thing when you have surrounded yourself with people who kind of can help you and support you and kind of take that action with you. That's really, really good. Guys, I would encourage you at home is to make sure you have those people in your life. And if you look around those people and they all look like you and think like you, try to find somebody different than you that thinks differently, that looks different than you, that can share a different perspective with you. You guys are awesome, right? You have been created so uniquely. God created you for a purpose like we learned last week, and he created us to kind of do life together, to work together, to kind of get better. Now it's almost worth celebrating, am I right?
Celebrate.
Celebrate.
You said celebrate.
You know what I think we should do? We should have not just any dance party, but a
superhero dance party.
Superhero dance party time.